I ordered the DJI Mic 2 the day it came out because I was just so excited about it. But it's been a few weeks now, and I want to share my thoughts on this mic and why ultimately I'm returning it. Hi, I'm Aaron Parecki. This is not a sponsored video. I bought the DJI mic myself, and after this video, I'm probably not going to get any sponsorship from DJI in the future. I try not to make negative videos about products. I would rather focus on the good parts of a product and talk about what makes it unique, but every now and then I come across something that really just doesn't live up to the hype. And that's basically what happened with this mic. It's fine, but that's about it. So before we get into the details, if you haven't heard of the DJI Mic 2, here is a quick recap of what makes this stand out from other similar wireless mics. This microphone has 32-bit float recording inside the transmitters themselves. Now because this is 2024, we basically expect this from a wireless mic that costs more than $200. 32-bit float is a really amazing feature that lets the mic record without worrying about the levels, and you can go back and adjust the audio later to make it louder or quieter without losing quality. Like really, you can shout into this thing and you can't get it to clip. But speaking of clips, a nice physical feature they added is this little track underneath the clip here. Since there is no twist lock connector on the top, normally you'd be worried about this pulling out when it's in somebody's pocket, not realizing it. Well, that's what this little track is for. If you lift this up, there's a little track where you can tuck the cord under and it'll get sandwiched there. And now you really can't pull it out. There's all the pressure is now on that joint and there's no chance this thing is going to come out. Another nice touch with the microphone is this physical record button marked with a bright red circle. So it's very obvious that what this does, and you can press it to record and that light lights up when it's recording. But you might be worried about bumping this sometimes when it's in a pocket, or if you hand it to a talent and they don't know what it's for, or if you accidentally just pick it up and accidentally press it when you're squeezing it. And that's why there's this nice feature, which is record lock. So if you go on the receiver, swipe down here, go over to the transmitter settings, scroll over till you see this record stop lock. And once that's on, now the button on the side can't accidentally start or stop recording. You can start recording on the side, but you can no longer turn it off accidentally. The other nice thing they did is it's really obvious on the receiver whether it's in recording or not, because there's this bright red border around the microphone when it's recording. Once it's linked, now we can see that only one of them is recording, and you know that this transmitter is not recording. The other useful setting in here is this auto record. So if you go over to auto record, you can turn that on or off. And this makes it so that once you take them out of the case and they power on, they just immediately start recording. And you'll never have to remember to turn on a recording because you can see on the receiver that it's just recording now. Both transmitters are recording. The only one downside about this is that it does mean that these can fill up and overwrite the old recordings if you leave them on for hours and hours. So the original DJI mic was amazing. I actually didn't realize that it's been almost 2 years since the original DJI mic came out. There are a few changes on the Mic 2 that are notable improvements and fixes compared to the Mic 1. Both the 1 and 2 still have this little USB-C and Lightning insert that you attach to the receiver if you want to use them with a smartphone or a computer. The one on the Mic 2 is just a lot stronger. It's just a lot better attached. This one seems a little bit easier to slip out. Like if you're mounting this into a phone, you might accidentally push it as you're sliding it into a device. On the Mic 2, it's super solid. It's not going anywhere. Another massive difference between the 1 and 2 is the cold shoe. On the 1, the cold shoe is this separate attachment that slips in where the USB-C and Lightning attachments go, and then it's this little clip here. On the Mic 2, it is permanently attached to the base. It's not going anywhere. It is part of the case. That is, however, both good and bad. This is definitely solid. It's not going anywhere if you mount it on top of something. However, it does mean that it's no longer a clip. With the Mic 1, it was kind of convenient to be able to clip it to a wire if you are mounting it to something that doesn't actually have an actual cold shoe. And there's just no way to do that with this one now. A really nice upgrade is the wheel. I do like the fact that there's a scroll wheel now. The touchscreen is pretty small, so if you're trying to navigate through, it's a lot easier to be able to actually scroll through with the wheel, press the button, and go into settings that way. The screen is slightly bigger compared to the 1, but it's still pretty small and it's a little bit sensitive to try to get your finger just in the right spot to press these settings. But one of the best new features of the 2 is that the transmitters are now actually Bluetooth microphones. So you can take a transmitter and pair it directly to your phone or your computer, and you can even pair these directly with the Osmo Pocket 3 or DJI Action 4. This is actually one of the features I was most excited about because it means that these are way more useful for all sorts of different things now. But this is about where my excitement about these ends. Let's talk about a couple of the things that I'm not such a fan of. For one, the physical size of the box compared to the 1 versus 2, the 2 is a bit larger. It doesn't look that dramatic in this video, but it just feels a lot bigger in person. And even though the case is bigger, it still doesn't have room inside for any of the accessories like the cables or the windscreens. For that, they give you this pouch that the whole thing fits into. So you slip this into the pouch, and the pouch can take the cables and your fuzzy windscreens. This, however, is no longer super small. This is now a good chunk. It's as big as some of my camera. While we're on the topic of size, the receiver itself is slightly bigger than the original. I don't necessarily mind the size difference here because it is pretty slight. They're still about the same height. However, it just feels cheaper. I don't know why. It's not that much different weight, but it just, for some reason, doesn't have the same kind of heft to it that the original one does. One other thing that I've heard a lot of reports of, but haven't experienced myself, is that some of the kits, when they come with the 2 transmitters, sometimes people have received them where the transmitters have very different tonal qualities to them. And it just sounds totally different when you get 2 recordings of the same person. Mine seem fine, but I've heard several reports of that from other people. Also, while we're talking about the microphones, the translucent case is kind of weird. It definitely gives it a look. I don't actually think I'm a big fan of this translucent case where you can see the circuit board through it. Now, they do have a white one, which looks a lot better and is not translucent. And frankly, this one looks just a lot more professional. The only problem is that the white one is not sold as a kit. You can only buy it individually. Another thing about these, which I heard Tom Buck talk about recently, and this is not unique to the DJI Mic, like all of the similar microphones of this size, it has a non-replaceable built-in battery, which means at some point the battery will wear out and you'll have to replace it, the whole transmitter. You can't get in there and replace just the lithium battery inside. So where does this leave me? Well, I mean, it sounds fine. It works fine. It works well. It is a slight upgrade to the Mic 1, but I'm just not excited about it like I was about the original DJI Mic. The 32-bit float is a great upgrade. Frankly, all of these tiny microphones should have 32-bit float recording at this point, but I don't think that's enough of a reason for me to keep this because it doesn't do that much other things compared to the other microphones I already have. That said, I am going to keep the standalone white transmitter that I bought, and I am buying a second standalone transmitter. But the only reason is because the thing I'm most excited about is being able to pair this directly with the Pocket 3. I shoot episodes of the House Files on the Pocket 3 all the time, and I'm really excited about not having to have an extra receiver dangling off the side of the tiny camera anymore. This will just be able to pair directly to the Pocket 3, and we can walk around the house and shoot updates, which is especially great now because things are ramping up quickly inside. If you're not familiar with the House Files, go subscribe to that channel. I'll link it down below. And then you can follow all of our construction updates and follow along as I cram way too much video gear into every part of the house. But as for the rest of this kit, it is going back to DJI as soon as I'm done filming this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.